And we are good. All right, we're going live. Once this flicks through. There we go. All right. All right. Here we are. All right, I'll go ahead and get rolling. And welcome to Liberty Under Attack Radio, your home for anarchism in action. I'm your host, Shane. This podcast, everything found on the website, is covered by BIPCONT, no government license, which allows reuse and modification to anyone except for government and the agents thereof. You can learn more at bipcont.org. So first off, I guess please share this video around and feel free to drop any questions you may have in the chat for my guest this evening. I'm pleased to welcome Demelza Hays to the podcast. She's a manager for Alternative Investment Fund, AIF, a regulated cryptocurrency fund in Liechtenstein, and a PhD student in business economics at the University of Liechtenstein. Before commencing her doctoral studies, she completed her master's degree in economics at the Toulouse School of Economics. Probably didn't pronounce that right. Prior to that, she was a U.S. Department of State Fulbright Scholar. Under the auspices of the Fulbright program, she researched microfinance and self-help groups in Punjab. I think that's India, maybe. She teaches one of the first university courses in the world on cryptocurrencies to bachelor's and master's students at the University of Liechtenstein. She operates a Bitcoin ATM in Liechtenstein and co-organizes the quarterly blockchain meetup in Vaduz. She also publishes, in collaboration with Incrementum AG, a quarterly research group on cryptocurrencies called the Crypto Research Group, which can be found at cryptoresearch.report. So quite a resume. So we're gonna get an idea of what's going on in the academic realm when it comes to crypto. So it's sure to be fascinating. So first off, Demelza, congratulations on your recent Forbes achievement, 30 under 30. It's great to have you on. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me on, Shane. That's wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Hey, not a problem, not a problem. So I guess first off, tell us a little bit about the recent Forbes achievement.
Well, it's Forbes Deutschland, Österreich, and Schweiz, which is basically Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So this isn't like Forbes US, which is very competitive, of course, but Forbes also exists outside of the US, and they have a ranking for people from the German-speaking countries or people that live in the German-speaking countries. And I received that award this year, so I appreciate Forbes for recognizing my achievements. Although I have to say that a lot of people I know deserve Forbes 30 under 30 award, but they don't market the good things that they do. So Forbes doesn't know that they exist, but
right.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. So I guess first off, let's, well, I guess before that, I first heard of you through Matt Battaglioli. He's been on our he's been on this podcast a couple of times. I don't remember what I put out a query for some reason. I don't remember what it was, but he pointed me in your direction, and we've been, connected on Facebook since. So I guess, why don't you start by providing a brief introduction? Who are you and what do you do?
Great. Okay, so I'll just start at the beginning, which is I'm from Florida originally. I listened to a video by Robert Higgs a couple years ago that basically said his main advice was to have mobile skill set and to basically leave the US, which I guess is drastic for a lot of people. But I went ahead and left the US, so I've been living outside of the US for 7 years now. I lived for 2 years in India, then for 2 years in France, and now I've been in Liechtenstein for 2.5 years. And it's a great opportunity to see the world, although living outside of the US did make me realize that I was taking the US for granted. So, I mean, there are certain things in the US that really don't exist outside. And my family comes from a libertarian background. So my uncle was a fellow at the Mises Institute. My aunt was a good friend of Ayn Rand's. And so
Wow.
I grew up so I got really lucky, and I just grew up with these ideas. And then I was a fellow at the Mises Institute, and I think that's probably how I got to know Matt Battaglioli.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just had a great experience there. And then My uncle's research was on basically free banking. I mean, he didn't really agree with Rothbard, but he was more on the Selgin and White side at Cato. But I kind of went down that road as well. And then when Bitcoin came out, it just was like free banking in practice. You know, it was like all these theories about denationalizing money. Well, somebody made a technology that was encrypted, that was private, that the government couldn't stop.
Right.
And it seemed like a natural continuation of my family's work to just go deeper into cryptocurrencies. And that started around 2013. I got introduced to cryptocurrencies. And then 2014, I started meeting with the regulators in Liechtenstein because at that time they hadn't heard of cryptocurrencies yet. And I had a business partner, Andreas Kohl, who met with the financial market authorities here with me, and we gave some presentations to the regulators here. And it's just been really uphill since then. I mean, I've been involved, like next week, Liechtenstein's publishing a blockchain law. I've been involved in working out large parts of that. I mean, specifically the economic consequences. So they wanted to do certain things, for example, making the law mandatory. And I really fought to make this law voluntary. And so it would be up to free market participants if they want to engage in tokenization of assets on a blockchain. And I've just been very involved here in Liechtenstein. It's a small country. You can really make big moves if you are ambitious and if you're hardworking. And so I've been at that for the past 2.5 years, and I guess that's how I got on Forbes.
Very interesting. So I mean that's really interesting that you're teaching a class on cryptocurrencies and blockchain at the University of Liechtenstein. I mean what's because I mean there are as far as I know there aren't many universities here in the U.S. that are even really looking too intensely at this. So why why all the focus from the University of Liechtenstein? What are they so interested in?
Well, I think, well, there are a few universities in the US. So Stanford has a course and Princeton has a course.
Oh,
And outside of the US, I know that University of Nicosia in Cyprus has courses. And University of Liechtenstein, I think, was like the fifth in the world or so to make a course. And basically, what happened was I became an internal doctoral student, which means that I'm on the payroll of the university. And since our university is so small, they give us a lot of freedom as doctoral students to create curriculum. And if the curriculum is in demand by students, then they actually allow us to create our own slides, our own reading materials, our own assignments. And I designed this Bitcoin course 2 years ago. So I just finished teaching the second year 2 weeks ago, and the students absolutely love it. I mean, we had so many students sign up for the course that we had to drop 50% of them because we had
wow.
too many students, and it's just been a huge success. So the past 2 years, the students have been able to make their own cryptocurrencies. That's the like large assignment at the end, that each student gets to make their own cryptocurrency. We code it all, and we publish it on the Ethereum testnet, and they can play around and send their coins to each other. And we also, for the course beginning, first two lectures are just on history of money. So they are reading Hayek.
Oh, that's important.
Denationalization of currency, of money. They're reading Hayek. Then we read Rothbard, what has the government done to money? Then we read Karl Menger on basically the difference between store of value and medium of exchange that Karl Menger discusses in Chapter 8 of Principles of Economics. And I mean, the course has been great fun. I absolutely love teaching it, and I think that the students absolutely love it.
Right. Yeah, that's fascinating. It's good to hear that because I know there's Prof. CJ is a teacher down in Florida, a history teacher, and he has his students read some I guess some of that Austrian economics sort of stuff. So that's really great that they're getting that and they're enjoying it, because how often I always kind of feel like us libertarians and anarchists are kind of weirdos, being all interested in economics and philosophy, and your students are apparently digging it. So that's great to hear.
Totally. I mean, one thing I love outside of the US is that this debate is not so polarized. So, especially like in Switzerland and Liechtenstein, and in the German-speaking countries, Austria and Germany as well, there is a tradition of having honest debates. So I have actually debates here with socialists, and the debate is totally calm. Like it's nothing like the US, like where people get completely emotional and upset when you question some welfare policy. Here, people will keep calm and really have a discussion with you where you can actually come to see eye to eye um, on some parts of the arguments. And I think that's been great. And the students here, I mean, I try to give them the other side of the argument too. Like we discuss chartalism and we discuss debt-based money. And we discuss how the banking system works currently. So I try to show them, you know, the other side of the argument as well. But in general, they just love the whole logical, um, deductive, reasoning that is behind free banking and privately competing currencies. Oops, did I lose you? I don't hear you anymore.
Hmm.
Oh, wait, now I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. And for the listeners, I had an issue with my mic, and I'm going with my backup, so if my voice sounds different, that's why. And dropped out for a second. I'm not sure what's going on there. But that's one thing I like about the blockchain and cryptocurrency space is that there's a lot of different perspectives. There are developers and hackers like Amir Taki who are taking it a really radical route. There's the academic route that you're kind of in. Then there's the investment angle, and it's just ev- I guess individuals from all different facets are interested in it. So I guess could you tell us a little more about what's going on in the academic sphere?
Sure. Well, when I started my PhD 2.5 years ago, and I'm in an economics department. I mean, basically, I was kind of laughed at, and I'm still laughed at to some degree by some mainstream economists. So I gave a speech at the Lindau Nobel laureate meeting, which is all Nobel laureate economists. I gave a speech, and my panel of judges was Nobel laureates, and I always Oliver Hart laughed at me. He said the most my research the my if my research has any value at all, it will be at most ephemeral. And
That's
a
really
few
interesting.
other yeah, a few other of the economists laughed at me as well. They just said, this is a joke, this is a Ponzi scheme, and but I have to say that it's the tides are changing slowly. So when I started 2.5 years ago, there weren't any high-ranking journals that would publish a paper on cryptocurrencies. But now it's totally the opposite. You can see top-ranking journals are publishing papers on cryptocurrencies. They're publishing papers on privately competing money. There was a big paper that came out recently, published by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, that was basically supporting privately competing currencies. And also, it's the same at conferences. So a lot of the top conferences now are specifically looking for cryptocurrency talks and research. And like for example, I got invited to come in July to give a talk on cryptocurrency asset management at the Central Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. So I'm going to be there in July. And there's a lot of facets to the academic literature. So most of it, I would say right now, is coming from the technology side. So cryptography, database structures, distributed computing, peer-to-peer networks, because there's a lot of problems there that um, that need to be worked on academically. So, for example, latency on the network, or how long it takes for a new transaction to be broadcast to all the other nodes in the
Sure.
network. On the other hand, the research I do, because I'm in an economics degree and I work at a financial firm, my research is more on the financial side. So we're looking at uh, what kind of strategy is going to optimize your return. Should you put 100% into Bitcoin, or should you maybe have some kind of market cap weighted portfolio, or should you have a liquidity weighted portfolio like daily trading volume? Should you care about if you get deeper into it, there's like mean variance optimization. There's all sorts of strategies you can use. And then the question my research is asking is what's going to provide the highest return for an investor. So that's where my research is. And yeah, it's been great fun. And my research attracted a local company to offer me a job. So about a year ago, a local company offered me a job that said, well, we want to make a cryptocurrency fund, and we know that you've been researching this topic, and so we would like to invite you to join our team and make a fund with us. And that company is called Incrementum, and I highly recommend them. It's all Austrian economists. It's a wealth management firm.
I noticed that the recommended reading is Human Action. I was like, okay, I can dig this for this firm, yeah.
They're the most awesome people to work with. Mark Valek and Ronnie Stufferly, awesome guys, really into Austrian economics. I mean, we go to lunch and like everybody has like their shirt that says end the Fed,
Awesome.
and we're like eating lunch together with our in the Fed shirts. No, it's really cool. Great team.
Yeah. Now, do you think any of this, I guess, changing tide in academia has to do with, and I guess some of your, your upcoming talks at the the Federal Reserve and such. Do you think that's coming? Do you think the fact that they realize now that they can't shut Bitcoin down? Do you think that that has something to do with it? That okay, we can't get rid of this, so we've got to, we need to learn about this so we can figure out what we can do.
I do agree with you. I think that's a great point, Shane. And basically, I think that this technology is stronger than the government. So I think that what's going to happen is they're going to try to regulate it, but not outlaw it. And at least that's the way Europe is going. So Europe is releasing their fifth directive on anti-money laundering and know your customer legislation, and that's coming out of Brussels, which is this basically part of the center of the European Union. And that legislation is basically going to distinguish between dirty bitcoins and clean bitcoins. And dirty bitcoins are going to be bitcoins that some of the previous transactions weren't tracked. Like we don't know what those transactions were used for. And clean bitcoins are going to be ones where, since the day it was minted in the blockchain through a coin reward transaction done by a miner, since the day it started up until the day that it's being used in the trade, we know each and every transaction that it was used for, and we know that those transactions were not for terrorism, money laundering, or tax evasion. And what the EU is going to do is they're going to basically say any exchange in Europe that deals with Bitcoin is only going to be allowed to trade these clean Bitcoin.
How are they going to go about doing like that's? Yeah, that seems complicated. I don't know how that's going to work out.
I don't think it's really going to work out very well because, I'm not a technology expert, but from my understanding, when you send a transaction and you get change sent back to your wallet, I'm not exactly sure that it's going to be possible even to do.
Yeah, and what if I imagine at some point it's possible that they might end up with some of those dirty bitcoins. What about an individual that ends up with those? I mean, are they going to be accused of money laundering? I don't know. It seems really complex, and I think they're going to learn that sort of regulation probably isn't going to work because I don't know how they can track. I don't know how they're going to track. I don't know.
Well, the dirty Bitcoin you would still be allowed to have, but you would only be able to use that with like a Bitcoin ATM or like a cash trade. And so the idea would be that eventually on the market, these clean Bitcoin would actually be worth more, right? Because they would be able to be traded on any exchange. So I do think there's a potential for them to enforce this. I'm not sure how many countries are going to jump on board. So it might not have a large impact on the global price if Switzerland doesn't jump on board, for example, which I really don't think they will, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah, and obviously all of the regulation I've seen, and this kind of makes sense that it's all targeted at the exchanges with, as you said, the KYC and AML laws. Yeah, and it is a really interesting space because obviously I think the first few years Bitcoin was out, governments were kind of watching it like this isn't going to last. Like this is going to die here soon. This will be something we don't have to worry about. And after about 2013, 2014, okay, this isn't going to go away. We've got to start kind of looking at this a little more seriously and figure out what we're going to do about it. But yeah, that's. I don't know. It's interesting to kind of see the government react to it, and then also I guess kind of the freedom-minded folks, like the libertarian, the radical libertarian hackers and crypto-anarchists, how they're kind of approaching this too with things like dark wallets. Have you heard of that?
No, actually I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that Amir Taki and Cody Wilson have been working on, and they've been mentioned, and they've been it's governments and central banks are worried about it for money laundering, obviously. So it's interesting to kind of see the dynamics from both sides of how it's kind of playing out. But I guess just a question for you that I'm kind of curious on. Outside of Bitcoin, are there any cryptocurrencies that you like for philosophical or ideological purposes, or ones you're looking at for investment? Obviously, not investment advice, but just any ones that you're kind of looking at outside of Bitcoin.
Well, I have a weak spot for Monero. I really like privacy coins. So I like Monero, I like Dash, I like Zcash. I think that those are all interesting coins. I also like Ethereum. I think that there's a lot of developers working on that, and I think that the market is large enough to where, we have no idea where this is going to go in the future. So I like Ethereum. I think the development team is somewhat honest compared to other development teams in this space. Yeah, also, I mean, in my own, yeah, I don't want to give investment advice, but in my own portfolio, I do tend to diversify. I mean, my largest holding is Bitcoin because I really think that Bitcoin is
it's going to be here for the long haul.
Yeah, the most secure. Just in the long run, this is proof of work out of all the consensus mechanisms for me is still the strongest in the sense that it has the least lowest chance of a single point of failure, which I think these other coins are in a bit of a problem there with the proof of stake and other like similar consensus mechanisms. But yeah, I mean, for me, I have a little bit in IOTA. I think IOTA is interesting, although I'm not like really convinced of it because for me, they issued all of their tokens at the Genesis block, which was not very clever because now there's really no incentive for a node to operate because the nodes can't get any transaction fees and they can't get any coin reward coins. So I don't see how that network's ever going to be decentralized, and I just don't know if that's going to work very well. But I would like to find a good micropayment token that I could invest in. But right now, I don't really see any good ones on the market.
Right. And looks like Paul commented in chat here. He said they can't outlaw it because other nation states will take advantage of it. So they're trying to control what is almost impossible to control. Save among willingly compliant state face is what he said. So yeah, that's true. If the United States goes and they say we're going to ban cryptocurrencies, well, I know a lot of countries that would say, all right, well, we know what we're going to do. So yeah, that's certainly a great point there, Paul. Monero is my favorite coin. Unfortunately, I wish that it was more user-friendly after that April 6th hard fork. I haven't had anything but issues trying to get the new wallet downloaded and sync to the blockchain. I've worked on it 3 or 4 times, just got really pissed off and just stopped trying to stop messing with it because I don't need. Obviously, Monero's down the lowest it's been in a long time, so I'm not trying to get rid of it anyways. So it's frustrating, and that's something that'll come I guess come down the line too is user-friendliness. Hopefully, that's. I mean, the only way there's going to be mass adoption is if it's easy to use. And I would love to see mass adoption with the privacy coin because that would drive governments crazy. But anyways, what are your thoughts on I guess the Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash debate that's going on now?
Well, I mean, I wrote about this in the second edition of the Crypto Research Report, which came out in March, and basically my position is that I mean, I only have my Bitcoin Cash that I got because of the fork, and I don't know why I didn't sell it, just diversification reasons, but I would not buy more. I mean, I'm not convinced that increasing the block size is the solution to Bitcoin's scaling situation. I don't even call it a problem because I really, in my opinion, and if you go back and you read Carl Menger separates money into medium of exchange and store of value. And I do not think that we need another medium of exchange. It's perfectly fine to have an inflationary medium of exchange like the dollar. And we have PayPal and we have Visa and we have a whole payment system that works. And all you need to do is hold on to your dollars as long as a couple hours until you spend it on your haircut. What we really need is a non-confiscatable global store of value. That is what we do not have. Every other asset class, stocks, bonds, real estate, gold, this can all be confiscated.
Right.
And what, in my opinion, the real value here is that we now have a global store of value that is non-confiscatable. And for me, paying $50 in a transaction fee, sure, no, that's not fun. Nobody likes it, but it costs way more to ship gold around the world, and people still ship gold around the world because gold is the second best thing we have for a non-political store of value. So, in my opinion, high transaction fees is not really a problem because I'm paying for the security of having an asset that the government can't touch.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Bitcoin Cash could possibly become replace the dollar or something like that, but I still would say that Bitcoin Cash is not the best medium of exchange on the market. I mean, I don't really like. I mean, I haven't followed it lately, but I'm still pretty sure that you can't put segregated witness in Bitcoin Cash. Like they didn't release a version where segregated witness is put into the code. So from my understanding, it looks like Bitmain and Jihan Wu have a real advantage to mining Bitcoin Cash, and I don't know if there's really much to it outside of that. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, honestly, I've watched Roger Ver a few times talk about it. I've watched some interviews and discussion on it, and I do certainly understand because like for me, like I get donations in Bitcoin sometimes, and obviously it's meager donations like $15-20 here and there. So whenever the fees were like $15 or $20, I couldn't do anything with that because I'd literally just be paying the miners for nothing in return if I was transferring it to wherever. So that was a little frustrating, but I do like your perspective that and that's one of the main contentions because you look at the original white paper of Satoshi and it's supposed to be an electronic peer-to-peer payment system, and obviously the Bitcoin Cash proponents are saying, well, that's not what we have with Bitcoin now, so that's not Bitcoin. I don't know. I think the Lightning Network is kind of interesting if they can actually get that implemented. But I don't know. It's interesting to watch. It really, really is. For me, I try not to get into those those big debates because I'm just happy that we have cryptocurrencies. That those are actually an option now because 10 years ago, I guess 10 years ago, Bitcoin was just released. But I mean, we have cryptocurrencies, and that's pretty incredible. They can't shut Bitcoin down. It's just really, really incredible as whether it's for investments, for financial independence, that kind of transfer of wealth that's happened, for early adopters, for I guess libertarians and anarchists, for people who adopted the currency for ideological purposes. It's really, really just incredible that they exist. So it's interesting to look at the technology and stuff, but I'm not a really tech person, so I try to understand it as best as I can. But I guess that'd be kind of my maybe cop out answer is that I'm just happy we have them, and we'll just have to see. I'm excited to see where we are in 5 years. Hopefully, Monero is just easy enough that Grandma can download it on her smartphone and use it to pay for her groceries. That'd be pretty incredible. So I'm just excited to see what the future looks like. And I guess one of the conclusionary questions I have for you is, what do you see as the future of Bitcoin and digital currencies? More generally.
Wow, good question. Well, I completely agree with you that it's just wonderful that we're having so many experiments in monetary policy right now. I mean, we just have basically each coin has its own policy, and I think the free market is going to determine who the winners are and who the losers are. I think in the future we could have several cryptocurrencies that are kind of like reserve currencies in the sense that I don't think we're gonna have just one. Like for example, the Bitcoin standard. I mean, I like this gentleman's Saifian Ammus's book, The Bitcoin Standard. I think it's a good argument, but I think that part of this whole technology is decentralization. So I think that if all of us put our trust into one monetary system, I think that's actually going to be a bit centralized. Like it's kind of like a monopoly without a monopolist, and or like a group of strangers that own the monopoly, which is fine, but it's still centralized in the sense that we're all using the same code, which could be have a technological problem. So I think we're going to have a couple currencies and a couple utility tokens, and we're going to have interoperability between these blockchains. So I think that atomic swaps are going to
Yep.
allow people to do things on the Ethereum network and also on, the Eternity. That Liechtenstein has a blockchain called Eternity. I think it's in the top 20. I mean, so you would be able to do a smart contract that works on both blockchains. I think that's part of the future, interoperability between blockchains. I think that the security tokens, the ones that look like securities where, obviously they don't even need a blockchain, but they're just like throwing blockchain in there so that they can raise capital and avoid getting a license to issue a security. I think that that's going to be a little bit regulated. Maybe governments are going to offer like a light license to firms that want to raise capital this way. I'm not really sure there what's going to happen, but I think the payment tokens, there's going to be a couple large ones, and the utility tokens, there's going to be a couple large ones. And I think we're going to have a whole myriad of various small tokens that look like stocks. They represent a share in a company, and might get dividends, you might get capital gains, and they're going to be traded on like you know, cryptocurrency exchanges that look like stock markets.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned atomic swaps because it's funny. Obviously, the regulators tend to be going after the exchanges, as you kind of elaborated with, as you elaborated earlier. But it'll be interesting because if atomic swaps, with like decentralized exchanges, if people can transfer, just transfer, peer to peer, and still have that security, knowing that that they don't have to, still the trustless aspect of it still, and that becomes user friendly too. Then those regulations on the exchange aren't really going to make that big of a difference. For some folks, obviously, for a lot of the mainstream investors and a lot of the mainstream folks will still use this centralized exchanges. But it's good. It's really awesome to see this technology develop and provide decentralized, peer-to-peer solutions. Even beyond just the financial aspect of it. Decentralizing, power and control. So I think it's really interesting to kind of see what's to come in the future. So I guess any other closing thoughts?
Oh, well, just thanks a lot for having me, Shane. I really appreciate being on your show.
Hey, not a problem. Not a problem. Any websites, your investment firm, things like that?
Oh, sure. Unfortunately, because of the FATCA, we with the U.S. regulations, we don't take American clients,
Oh,
but
fair enough.
we do have a report which is available in German and in English for free. It's online, cryptoresearch.report. We publish it quarterly, and we are always looking for sponsors, because basically we have a team of researchers and our sponsors are how we fund that. And we're happy to have ideas on what kind of topics you want us to research. And we have the new edition coming out next week.
Oh, nice. Nice. Very good. Very good. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Demelza. I certainly appreciate it.
My pleasure, Shane. Have a good day. Is it still daytime in America?
Yes, it's coming up on 4 p.m. Coming up on 4 p.m. So thank you so much, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you found some valuable insight, into the academic crypto realm. Because I think a lot of us, anarchists don't really take a look at that too much, and it's always nice to, get a fuller perspective on what's going on with this great technology. So thanks, guys. libertyunderattack.com/Vonu book. You can go pre-order my book right now. Certainly appreciate it. And the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest is coming up real soon, June 21st to June 25th at the Circle Pine Center in Delton, Michigan. Make it out if you can. mplfest.org is the website. Thanks, guys. Later.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Standing on the precipice of a global revolution of economics, politics, and government. Welcome to the blockchain. Power corrupts, money is power. The power to control the money is one that is now in the hands of those who pretend we can't function without them. So how can we do something about it? Working hard to get a raise, lifting that wage up. Inflation takes it like a hidden taxation. Manipulated interest rates to give the banks a way to create money with the loans that they're giving out daily. That means our money is dead, and we gotta pay back more than 100%. No wonder then why the middle class is going under when the ones above them gotta cover and come to collect. And many have no access to banking, making payments or saving, so more fees are taken. And every day the gatekeepers are trying to stop change. We cannot wait. Welcome to the blockchain.
Welcome to the blockchain. Things are about to change. Open up the gates. Systems get replaced. Bitcoin. Decentralize the trust. Security, transparency. The network's run by us.
Bitcoin is a decentralized ledger, and the currency is its first enterprise ever. Secured by the worldwide incentivized network. Can't be stolen or controlled by any size effort. You can send it anywhere and instantly. No one can intervene, no third party in between. There's no counterfeiting, algorithms control the outer limits of how many coins can get released. Programmable money, no government can seize it. Payments can be customized by sender and receiver. Contracts written, cementing your agreements. With terms that can't be met once you consent, then it completes it. Autonomous businesses are possible where profit is distributed amongst those adopting it. Paradigm shift, we must adjust to the end. And with the blockchain, Bitcoin is just the beginning.
Welcome to the blockchain. Things are about to change. Open up the gates. Systems get replaced. Bitcoin. Decentralize the trust. Security, transparency. The network's run by us. Bitcoin.
Now that we got control, we're not gonna let it go. My people all around the globe, we gotta keep building, building, building. Now that we got control,
We got control.
we're not gonna let it go. My people all around the globe, we gotta keep building, 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 building.
Welcome to the blockchain. Things are about to change.